Hey there YouTube, this is Lucifer Lakeborn coming back at you, as you can see from the black parlor. I'm in here right now because I want to talk about something that I got a comment that inspired me to talk about it and some of my religious points of view on things. Now, as everybody knows, I am a Satanist. You know, it gets a little obvious. You know, so one of the things that people often wonder about me is my points of view on hell. What is hell? Is hell a real place? And if it is, am I going to it? And if it is real, what is it about? First off, I'm going to be quite clear on this. I am a theistic LaVeyan, sometimes called a pre-1975 LaVeyan. And what that basically means is I follow Anton LaVey's teachings on a lot of things. Now, one of the things that Anton LaVey talked about was that there was no hell where sinners roast. And he mentions this right in the Satanic Bible. This is true, but isn't true. Okay? Hell has been an interesting concept of an afterlife since the olden days, okay? It has undergone so many transformations. It has been a key feature in so many points of literature, movies, and whatnot. We've seen so many iterations of it. Perhaps two of the best iterations of hell occur in John Milton's famous epic poem, Paradise Lost, and then which was actually considered a prequel to Dante, Dante's famous work, the Inferno. Okay, literally Dante's Inferno, which has since also spawned a video game on it. It has spawned anime and movies on it. Dante's Inferno and John Milton's Paradise Lost actually give a serious, real description of hell. But what we got to understand is that these descriptions, this actually is now hundreds of years old. Okay? Even before then, we had descriptions from Greek mythology, Roman mythology, of a place called Tartarus and whatnot. And literally, all these descriptions described a very similar environment. When we look at the Christian ideology of what, or iconography or description of what hell is, a lot of the time they actually straight up call it Tartarus. Now, this has changed over many, many years. And one of the things that has changed about it is what hell is. Hell has gone from being called Gehenna to the pit, to Tartarus, to various other descriptors. Now, when we come to hell, perhaps John Milton's Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno are some of the best descriptors. But we need to remember that there have been other authors and storytellers since then that have had a huge influence of how hell is made to appear. And since then, hell is no longer just a simple layered pit. Because that's what hell was. According to John Milton, hell was this pit. You had heaven above, you had humans on the earth, and then below them was this pit. And it would take, when the rebel angels fell, they fell through earth, and a lot of them went past it, and they fell for 9 days, literally falling for 9 days into this pit. And so that tells you on how deep the pit of hell supposedly is. It took them 9 days to reach the bottom, and what they reached at the bottom was this confluence of 4 rivers that convened at this burning lake, the famous lake of fire. And in this, it was just a blasted black plane. It was dark, almost as dark as this room here, as the ritual chamber, as the black parlor. And that's one of the reasons why we have our ritual chambers quite traditionally this dark and with black walls and whatnot. Not all of them, but the ones like myself who can actually make up a decent ritual chamber, this is what it looks like. It's supposed to invoke images of darkness and hell and dark secretive things. So when we start going into the story of hell, when the angels crash landed on the bottom of hell, okay, at the very base, they were at the shores of the lake of fire and whatnot, they didn't just sit there moping. They immediately got to work. Okay, they built a city, a capital city for themselves. They built for themselves a new type of heaven. Okay, they had rejected God, they had fallen into hell, they'd lost the battle, and they rallied around key figures. And one of these key figures was Lucifer, or Satan, who became the key leader. Okay, supposedly he was the one who led the revolt, along with several other major generals. And all the rebel angels, the whole third of the heavenly host that fell, put their heads together and they made a capital city. And this capital city was called Pandemonium. Okay, so, and that's how it's been since then. Now, I'm going to get into some of the weird little things that I do or have been known to do in the past. And a lot of it has resulted, and I made a previous video talking about how I suffered a near-death experience and what I saw in that near-death experience. Now, I talked about the between, the umbra, or the further, if you want to put it into movie terms, such as the Insidious series, where it is like this, a very dark, black zone, okay? As you arrive in there, you call out to your patron deity, and they whisk you away out of that. But some people, they get stuck there, and they become ghosts. And this is the between realm. But when you go beyond that, there is a place that is deemed as hell, okay? Now, the name hell, I'm going to really quickly touch on, comes from the Norse Hela. She is a goddess. She is also a place. Hela, or hell, spelled with one L, is the goddess of the dead. Okay, she is the devil. She is Hades and whatnot. She is the queen of the afterlife. Her body, literally the afterlife exists inside her body, from what I understand. I don't know too much of Norse mythology in that regard. I know enough to be dangerous, but yeah. So from that, we get the word hell, okay? It is a reference to Hela of the Norse mythology. Now, hell in our mythology is pretty much also referred to in the Bible as Gehenna or Tartarus. Now, Tartarus in the Greek mythology was the afterlife version of hell. You had the Elysian fields, and then you had Tartarus, and Hades ruled over them both, okay? If you were a good, kind, just person, you went to the Elysian fields, or the Elysian fields. If you were a bad person or whatnot, you went to Tartarus. There was also a afterlife for warriors, okay, who had fought and died on the battlefield, where they could then be at peace with their families and whatnot. So when we look at the Greek mythology, we see a whole encompassing of different elements. And we see that translated over to Christian mythology, where the Elysian fields suddenly split away from hell and became heaven. In a lot of satanic lore and a lot of Wiccan lore, the Elysian fields is part of the afterlife. Wiccans also call it the Summerland, or Summerlands, and whatnot. And it's basically the same thing. It's this really peaceful, meadow-like place where people, after they die, they go and they're at peace. All right, it's just a really beautiful place. But Tartarus is hell. Okay, Tartarus is the underworld. It is not a place you want to go to. Now, in satanic mythology, not a lot of Satanists really talk about what hell is and what hell isn't. We generally don't need to. A lot of Satanists, outside of myself, a lot of LaVeyans, count themselves as atheists now. I'm part of a small subsect called Pre-75 LaVeyans, or Theistic LaVeyans. Okay, also sometimes called Classical LaVeyan, which means the style that I follow is from the pre-1975 schism of the Church of Satan that created the Temple of Set. And yeah, before that era, there is a lot showing that the Church of Satan actually did have theistic views and a lot of theism going on in it. I'm not saying that Anton LaVey was a theistic at this point. I found plenty of evidence that supports that he was, but I'm not saying that right now. What I am saying is that there was a lot of theists there. Now, after that, we had the schism. After 1975, we had the schism, and the Temple of Set showed up. They were the first branch off of the Church of Satan, and they were very much so theistic Satanists, though they call themselves Setians. And so, they were the first theists. But out of all of this, no one really talks about what hell is and what hell isn't. Now, some of the things that have happened to me, I've had a near-death experience where it sent me on this whole crazy journey to discovering religion, what is and what isn't true. And my personal findings that have convinced me of certain things, and I don't expect anybody else to believe these, is that hell exists. It is real. But it is real because man made it so. Okay? We willed it into existence, just like we willed God and Satan into existence. If we take away our belief in them, they cease to exist. Okay? We are the ultimate creators. We are the ultimate destroyers. Now, that being said, hell is something we have also created. It is something that we need to address. Now, this is especially true for the past few years, especially since shows like The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and other shows that have addressed Satanism and satanic viewpoints and the afterlife have become very popular and have de-vilified, if you will, a lot of the satanic viewpoints. Hell now has a whole different outlook. What was once horrendous layers of hell, or levels of hell, found in Dante's Inferno, isn't quite that anymore. Key features of hell have appeared from history and from story being made manifest in this ethereal place that we have willed into existence. And it is this huge cacophony of things. So some of the key features of hell is that, yes, hell has cities. Not everyone that goes to hell is going there to suffer, okay? They're not always going to be punished. But hell also has prisons. And what are in these prisons are some of the truly horrendous souls in the world, in the universe, and whatnot. Entities that have done horrible, horrible, nightmarish things and have no repentance whatsoever for what they've done. But when you come across Satanists and pagans and other people that are good people, like myself, like other folks out there who don't want to hurt anybody, who live decent, good lives, and they can die with very few regrets, and they can push past those regrets after they die. If they still find themselves in hell, those people who are Satanists and whatnot, who have understood that, are immune. They're not going to be tormented unless they torment themselves. And that's one of the big features of hell. A lot of the torment that goes on in the afterlife in general, not just hell, is because of your own guilt. If there is something in your life that you have done that you are guilty of, that you feel guilty of at least, and that's more important, you need to feel guilty of it in your heart, in your soul, then that is going to be what torments you in the afterlife, okay? And if you can find yourself pushing past that after you die, or even before you die, then nothing bad is going to happen to you, especially in hell. And for those Satanists who have accepted Satan for what he is, for what he represents, for what the hellish host is, they're not going to be tortured. If anything, if you choose to stay in hell, because you're not locked in, you can leave hell and be reborn. We do believe in reincarnation just as much as pagans or other Wiccans do. A lot of us do. Those of us who actually believe in an afterlife, not counting the atheists, if you choose to leave, you can. But if you choose to stay, there you go. You become a warden of hell, so to speak. It's not a free ride, and by no means. Hell is always expanding, and even in the afterlife, you're expected to pull your weight, even in hell. And if that means guarding one of hell's prisons, there are prisons in hell. There's Tartarus, that's a known prison. There's the Malabolge, okay? There's another prison, and there's a few others. I can't remember them all offhand. But there's at least 3 or 4 prisons in hell where the truly vile exist. But those who are, there's also wilds of hell, and you have wandering souls there who may be self-flagellating themselves or whatnot. And if they can push past that, there's cities. There's the city of Dis, there's the city of Pandemonium, there's other cities, and each of the 7 deadly sins of hell have been given a layer of hell. There's multiple layers in hell. So that's what we got. And that's where I'm going to leave it. One interesting layer I'm going to really quickly touch on is the layer of lust. Okay, I think it's 2nd level of hell, where those who have had lustful desires are whipped around in a whirlwind, in a storm where they can never rest and never find peace. Not true. Okay. The layer of lust, well, expect to find pleasure palaces. From what I've understand through astral projection, because that is something that I have been known to do, there is pleasure palaces on it. These layers are different. I know this sounds kooky. I know I sound like I'm starting to get way out there, folks, and that's why I was really hesitant to make this video. But bear with me. Just please bear with me. And if you believe what I'm saying, great. If you don't, fine. I don't care. Okay? It's not going to change my life. It's not going to change your life. But yes, from what I've seen through astral projection, meditation, and whatnot, the plane of lust, if you want to call it that, has pleasure palaces or whatnot. And you might see stuff that you would recognize from fantasy stories or movies, whatever you can create when you get there, such as Nero's pleasure palace. Nero was a big villain, and that's where we get the 666 from, is Nero, because he killed a bunch of Christians, fed them to the lions and whatnot. But he had this big pleasure palace that he let a lot of Rome burn to clear the land for, while he was up on his balcony playing his lyre or whatnot. So there's that. I will be publishing, well, not publicly publishing, but here soon we'll be starting some projects. And one of the projects that I'm going to be doing soon that is going to be available to members of my personal group, and I will be making a free publish or PDF copy for it, is sort of a new Bible type thing. I'm also going to be republishing my Satanic Testament book, and I'm going to be talking about some of this stuff in those books where I'm going to go into a lot more detail. And that's where I'm going to leave this off. I know I sound kooky on some of these things, especially the whole pleasure palaces thing. Don't just focus on that. But tell me what you think in the comments down below. And tell me what your experiences are with the afterlife. Have you died before? And what did you see? I know what I saw. It was pretty motivating and scared me as a kid. I'm going to leave a link down to that video down in the description below. And until next time, like, share, subscribe. I am Lucifer Leg of Orden, YouTube's favorite ranting Satanist. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. I know I just said like, share, subscribe already. I'm just reiterating it. Until next time, I'm out of here.